every company today is a technology company?
Having true representation of technology at the executive level is just a key thing. And technology goes across the whole business now. Having that trust and transparency with the C-suite is important because some of the stuff you have to rely on each other a lot now, especially with all the new technology tools coming down.
Today on the CIO Lifeline, we're talking about adapting to the C suite. That includes tools of the trade, software and hardware, but also the softer side of that relationship with IT leadership. With me is Craig Schroeder from VCIO Global. Stick around. Craig, how we doing today?
Great. How about you?
I'm well. Really excited to have you on the show today. This is a topic that just seems to fit the title you bring and the company you represent. So you're the founder and CEO of VCIO Global. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and the company and your history?
We'll start out history because it's easy to build on. I owned a Microsoft consulting firm for 25 years. Started out in the ERP space, CRM space, and then added IT and then agile custom dev shop. So we had three divisions and had that, sold that back in 2015, did a couple other IT president gigs for a while, and now I'm doing fractional CIO, virtual and visionary CIO services because I'm really getting more aligned with the C-suite, helping them on priorities, helping them, align a technology roadmap with a business roadmap. And, technology needs to be at the top and interacting with all these business strategies now and just having a blast doing it.
Yeah, and they've I like to say, and interesting to hear your take on this, but every company today is a technology company. Am I embellishing this too much, or is there some truth to that?
That's a lot of truth. And, having true representation of technology at the executive level is just a key thing. And technology goes across the whole business now, right? So it'll actually change priorities. So it's just important to have somebody helping decipher all the new things coming down the pipe.
Great point. And as IT leaders, there's two elements to this, which I think is perfect for today's topic. You have the traditional IT stuff, I'll call it. I mean, they're using programs or using equipment that needs to be buttoned up and working and be resourced properly. So there's all those elements. So then you think about how every company is a technology company. So now you're touching all corners of the business. So I don't think I know, it transcends sort of the keeping the lights on cost center mentality of IT of yesteryear and brings you really into the business side. And that involves forging relationships. And today we'll focus on the C suite and ways to help strengthen those relationships. We'll give our tips and tricks, lots of opinions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But let's start with the tech side of it. Some of the tools that you've found successful and what your approach would be in working with your C suite individuals.
Most companies need a CIO, but can't really afford a CIO all the time. So they bring me in, and what I do is usually work with internal IT resources are the partners that they have taking care of technology today. But the biggest thing that I've really been able to capitalize on is just a simple tool like Planner. I know there's Trello and there's the other non-Microsoft ones, but most of my clients have Office 365. But Planner set up in a way to where you have items you want to discuss, what the priorities are now and then next. You sort of using the Kanban system where you're pulling things forward, or the Agile system, where when we have meetings, we're actively using Microsoft Planner to talk about the priorities, where they're at, what the timelines are, and it just brings this whole transparency to the C-suite, which every one of my clients have really enjoyed. They know where it's at. We get the slide cards up and down. It's more of instead of me or them pointing at me with priorities, we're using this planner tool. It's more of a dialogue than a debate. Having that trust and transparency with the C-suite is important because some of the stuff you have to rely on each other a lot now, especially with all the new technology tools coming down.
It sounds like you're using it not just for project management, but also kind of the day to day. Is that accurate?
It's managing all the projects. This is the big picture projects, and this is where the C-suite lives, right? They want to know what are the big projects that are moving the needle. They don't want to get into the weeds necessarily. They want updates so they're aware and potentially can contribute, which is what we want them to do because they have a lot of business savvy. But the other neat thing is we have this to discuss column. So during the week, if there's things that can wait, we just put it in the to discuss and we talk about it there instead of having these email dialogues that get misinterpreted all the time.
Yeah, email is kind of the white noise bucket. I mean, if I could somehow lasso in the volume of emails I get every day, I just feel like I would be in a better place mentally.
When I use Planner for executive level meetings, and then I use it for all like the IT director level and down, and then I see companies starting to adopt this across all their divisions. I'm really seeing about a 20%, 25% reduction in email noise. And just because things are
Wow.
saved on a list, it's called list management versus email, just task and noise. And I taught a class called Getting Things Done by David Allen about 4 years ago. And it's the whole mindset of list management. If it's safe on a list, now your brain is free to process instead of trying to make your brain remember things.
So with the adoption rate that you're seeing with your clients with a tool like Planner, there's some things that are implied, or at least that's how I'm interpreting it. A, it's user friendly. B, it's mobile friendly because we are increasingly using our phones or a tablet, not a traditional desktop. And it's obviously intuitive. I mean, I feel like those are some softballs I'm throwing you, but I feel like those all hit the mark, right?
100%, because when it's mobile, you can even do voice to text updates. When I'm driving down the road and I think of something for a client, I just pull up their planner, pop it in the to discuss, or put it in one of the column buckets we have set up, and I move on with life. But then we link OneNote to Planner. Planner is like the macro, what the priorities are, and OneNote linked with it is all the working papers. So you truly could be digital.
What other tools do you have in your tool bag, or does this strike all the chords and helps get the conversation going and getting right into the meat of the matter?
Yeah, well, Teams is, obviously Teams is a big one, right? But the tools really are Planner and OneNote. Every day I get up and what am I going to get done today? And it's for me, for a client, because you can only have one true number one, right? I mean, this is where people get messed up all the time. They have 10 number ones and then they just code switch between all of them and then they get hardly anything done.
And I love that you're getting this type of adoption rate with the C suites you work with. And there's a soft side to this too, right? So maybe this is a chicken and egg thing. You bring the tools in and they build that trust through usage. But sometimes, are they trusting what you're bringing to them out of the gate? Hence the chicken and egg. But let's talk a little bit about the soft side of the C suite relationship. And because forging those relationships can be, I mean, difficult might be an unfair word, but again, if we're looking at IT leaders and traditional mindsets of IT, which is what we're trying to break through here, a relationship out of the gate with your IT leader, if I'm the CEO, it's just different than with the CFO or their head of sales or operations. I mean, there are some things that there are barriers that you have to break through. Now, if you have a technology minded CEO,
Mm-hmm.
that tends to be easier. But if she or he is more your traditional legacy leader, there's some work ahead.
Sometimes you can't jump right into Planner because they don't know the tool. They're trying to get your head around it. What I'll do is I'll take those 3x5 standard sticky cards and I'll lay out a whole wall of what the priorities are. And jointly, we physically move them. We have dialogue around why one is a priority over the other. If you're trying to get dashboards built and they want dashboards, well, we got to do the data cleanup first so those dashboards have accurate data, right? And so the magic is in dialogue in a lot of these things. So sometimes I was president of one company and I had a CEO that would just come in and say, "Where's this? Where's this? Where's this?" So I finally just laid out all these 3x5 cards because he would never go on the computer and look. So I put them on my
Mm.
wall and I said, it's in the column 4. Now, I got 3 things in column 1. Do you want me to take one of those off and pull the number 1 over to the column 4 or column 1? And he said, nope, I'm good. I just need to know it's on a list. So that the calming of the C-suite of knowing it's safe on a list is pretty cool. So sometimes you might have to do the old analog 3x5 cards, right? And then move it into the planner or Trello if you're not using Microsoft, because you have to get the right order and the right dialogue get to start.
Yeah, and I've had CEOs tell me it's the way you say things that makes the conversation comfortable. And I think the example you just shared, where there was some hesitancy to be in the computer, and so I like how you coined it. You do it the analog way, with the 3x5 cards. I think that's another great example, and it speaks to what I would call forging that relationship, right? Building that trust,
Yeah.
understanding that you're just not coming in with these fancy acronyms and solution forcing. It's a dialogue, and you're finding that comfort zone. Like you're being a chameleon in the moment, and I applaud that.
Yeah. Well, and the soft skills of being an active listener, right? I mean, even if you know the response, just pause and digest and then respond. Don't jump in. Don't get too technical in the weeds, and make sure you're just listening and helping have dialogue around priorities.
Well, we got two ears and one mouth for a reason, right?
Right on.
And sometimes you listen, you watch some people, and you kind of watch them sinking themselves. You just want to intervene and go, "Will you shut the up? Will you just listen?" Yeah. So, all right. So let's look at the support side of things. And now a ticket comes in, and one of the things I train my team on, and I want it baked in the cake. It's certainly in my DNA. I'm sure it's in yours too, is that if you see a request come in, I mean, we talked about forging those relationships, but you want to sustain them too, right? Because one ill deed can set you back, and we don't want to do that. We always want to be on their A list. So if I see a request come in, or my team sees a request comes in that the batteries on their mice died, listen, unless that building's on fire, that's at the top of the list. And I'm going to hand deliver you some AA batteries for your mouse, or someone from my team.
You are right on. They're in the C-suite for a reason, right? And let's say their hourly rate is a lot higher than most people. So
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
make sure they're working. I mean, so there's the pet side of it, and then there's the reality of the numbers, right? I mean, they are making big decisions and keeping the company going in big ways. So keeping them running, checkbox. Catering to them to know that you're a service arm of the business and you care. I mean, that can go a long way too, because companies are supposed to be growing, they're supposed to be taking care of their people, and that just shows at the top all the way down that you're taking care of and you're aware.
You know what? That's a great point, because I'm picking on how we should give attention, and rightfully so, to the C-suite, elevated attention. But the theory is too, right? We should be white gloving all of our employees. But I think it also sends a message too, that hey, if this is how I'm being treated, I would expect the same type across the leadership team. Like there's a much broader message on that level of attention.
I think there is the unconscious message of we're taking care of the people, keeping operations going, and we have the intel to know when it's going to impact downtime, right? I mean, again, you don't want them down at all, because hopefully they're busy making big decisions, right? And if they need their tools, they need their tools, right?
And speaking of those tools, I understand that we have a standard issue Microsoft keyboard wired that's $35, but they like the wireless mechanical with the blue backlit that's $250. No problem. You'll have it tomorrow. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
back to the sort of the kind of wink wink on we have standard equipment, but again, I'm being redundant, but we're gonna have a heightened sense of support and attention, for the senior leaders in the organization. It's smart politics.
right. And I'm seeing that come down even from the C-suite on equipment. One couple of my clients, we're giving them like 5 form factors to pick from. Like,
Yeah,
the accountants always had the 10 key, the sales
that's
guys
right.
3-3, 13-3. But the accessories, I mean, anymore, there's not that kind of crazy support on some of that stuff. I get the big stuff, right? But if it's like buying somebody's phone for them, it's an extension of them now. And you want it to be because then they feel cared for. There's a cultural impact now of, hey, even a dialogue of what accessories do you want? I mean, that makes them feel so good because again, tech is, there's no life work balance anymore. It's more integrated, right? It's just integration. And if you give them a tool that's going to help them out with their life and work balance, our integration, then I think it goes a long way.
That's another fantastic set of points, Craig. I mean, you're right, and having the conversation. So it's not just this transaction. You need a keyboard or you need a phone. Okay, do you prefer Android or Apple? Do you need extra chargers? For your home setup, or maybe one for your car. And it's pennies in the big picture. I love your comment about work life balance, having the tools to keep people productive, not only keep them productive, but less frustrated.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't care if it's an extra X number of dollars to provide some extra cables and connectivity, one for their home, one for their car, one for the office, because in the moment, if they forget something, now they're irritated, they're frustrated, they're wasting time. And for what? I mean, it's just like you said, a conversation. And at the end of the day, it's just a rounding error on cost.
Right. And the cultural impact is huge. I mean, it's weird, but because they're relying on technology so much, you want them to be part of it, part of the solution.
And all right, so that's the equipment side. Now you have the project side. Sometimes projects that are near and dear to them come out, and I'm specifically focused on the CEO here, but there's other C-suite and senior level individuals that you have general project discussions. Reading the room is a skill set for IT leaders. Understanding nuance, understanding that, hey, I could tell that this project has a lot more importance to them personally. I mean, there's business projects you take on, but like, so I'm kind of getting long-winded on this particular point, but I've found it successful in dealing with different leadership teams in the past. I mean, you have projects that run the business. You have strategic projects, very important, but you also have an element within that project. Maybe doesn't make the top 10 list in terms of executing a plan for the company, but it's something that's important to them or they feel would be a time saver or just there's an X factor there. But learning to hone in on that, understand, listen to it, and then seize that moment. Because I call it a pet project, but to me, it's just understanding something that's really important to a particular leader that you're going to embrace and deliver on them as just one more, call it a checkbox in that relationship, and gives you that credibility buildup with that individual.
Absolutely. Another tool is asking great questions, right? I mean, as IT people historically, they are order takers, right? And transitioning to asking great questions of, tell me more about that project. Tell me why it's important to the company. Tell me why it's important to you. How will this help you? I mean, sometimes you can't ask all those, but if you ask good questions and you're seeking to understand, that builds that trust big time. And sometimes it even puts more light to the other people on, oh, that should be a higher priority.
Great points. And I think even though we're in this remote hybrid acceptance phase, I don't even know if it's a phase. I think it's baked in the cake. Getting as much face time as you can, I think, is important because there's just those things that you just don't capture in a headshot. Helps build that rapport. You can't go to lunch over Teams. Just all again the soft side of this relationship.
Yeah, and there's just a ton of soft skills. I mean, knowing the birthdays, obviously, doing a social gathering and all that is those are great. But you really, the hybrid world is here. I'm totally in agreement with that. It's more project and productive management versus time management. If you have the right metrics and the right tools in place, and I don't over metric things, right? I mean, obviously you got to have something you measure, but if you're pulsing on these projects, time management doesn't put a barrier in the relationship.
Yeah, and I like the happy birthday comment. It just be a text. Hey, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Thanks. You
Right.
know, they
Or
know you're thinking of them, and you remember,
yeah,
and I liked, yeah, and I liked your comment on the on just the questions and seeking to understand. That's the phrase you said. Seek to understand. It's not just a task that you're given, and yes, ma'am, I'm going to execute on the task. It's also understanding the business reasoning and the implications, and usually more ideas and enhancements come out of that constructive dialogue.
yeah. I think that was from the Seven Habits book, seek to understand, then be understood, kind of thing, right? If you need to be understood, right? But I think it's great questions. I mean, and verification.
IT projects of any complexity, when you talk about when are we going to launch? How are we to budget? Typically IT projects of complexity, you tend to blow those two things out of the water. No one's fault, but scope creep tends to blend in,
Yep.
and as rigid as you want to be against this is what was scoped and this is what we're going to do. As you get into projects of complexity, you learn new things, you discover new things. Things come out in testing that you didn't anticipate. Microsoft or Google may make core browser updates or security updates that send it sideways a little bit. So again, back to that dialogue and understanding, and we have to be chameleons as leaders, right? As IT leaders. I've had bosses who love the details, love the minutia. They want to be in the weeds, and some that just that causes a twitch. Like they're agitated by that. High level only, you know. So understanding back to the early parts of what makes them click, what drives them, what's the information that they want to consume, when do their eyes start to glaze over? These are things you just need to be in tune with.
Yeah. What's cool about that is we used to have to be chameleons, like secretly. Now it's more open dialogue, right? I mean, it's like, okay, I'm assuming if because there's just different type of people. I mean, we got 16 personalities in the world, right? And with some other factors on that. And it's like, okay, do you want details? I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right information that you want. Do you want high level summary and then correlated details, or even having dialogue around that nowadays is cool. Before we had to try to read it and then either get annoyed or not annoyed, right? There are some difficult, or I should say challenging people out there that'll flip flop on you, but eventually you usually land on what kind of communications they want.
No, and even the flip flop or even bipolar leaders, I think that's why we can't emphasize enough to forge those relationships very early. I remember the two bosses ago, the first meeting I had with him, I went into the one on one. I was muscle memory with my prior boss, who loved the details. Right, so I'm like 5 minutes in, going through the updates, and he cuts me off. He goes, "Wait, just please tell me you're not focused on these things." He was irritated, right? And this is my first meeting with him, and I said, all right. So apologies, your predecessor loved the minutia, loved the details. I'm giving you the team hit list of activity. You like it high level, no problem. Let's start over. And here's the high level, And it was just that, to your point, that open, honest, kind of dialogue. You don't have to clam up or go, oh, shit, I just pissed them off. Now I'm going to go silent. Just having that open dialogue always, I think, always bears fruit.
Sure, sure, yeah. It's pretty neat too. And then when you give them, if they want to have participation in like the planner or dialogue stuff, I'm seeing even that being a pickup. I have one client where he wanted to know on every card the updates. I'm like, do you really? I said, I don't think you want to know updates on every card. How? Because sometimes we're updating these cards just for notes and project updates, and then you're going to get annoyed, and then you're going to stop looking at the notifications. How about we just do one card that's updates for what we think you would like to know?
And I had fun with that boss. The next meeting, I come in and it's an hour. I'm like, I said I meant to book this for an hour and a half because I got a lot of shit to cover. And he kind of looked at me like a deer in headlights. I'm like, I'm just messing with you, and and just yeah.
That's fun. You got to have fun with them because things, you're going to be stressed and just having a little fun. And again, trust, build the relationship.
Even if you agree to disagree, because just because this is your boss, you're allowed to disagree and have a spirited debate or just devil's advocate as to where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, a decision is going to be reached, and you're going to be in alignment. And when you walk out that door, there's no question. This was the decision. Here's where we're going, and it's not going to turn into conversations with coworkers going, yeah, she no idea what she's talking about.
Sure, sure. Yep. And healthy tension in the room, good, right? But you're unified when you walk out, support each other, and that's just the way it is. And respectful tension. Respect's a trigger word for me. If I'm being disrespectful or somebody's being disrespectful to me, I pause. It's my trigger word to stop and say either they're not understanding or I'm not understanding something. Pause and then make sure you get clarity because there's no reason to be I mean, everybody has a bad day and you'll give them a bad day, right?
Yeah, there's a difference between a bad day and just being outright disrespectful, right? I mean, and you figure those out over time, but you also got to have some thick skin too. But but you need to know your limits too, right? It is possible to push too hard.
Oh yeah.
We can agree to disagree, but if you just keep going back to the same till, that doesn't tend to go so well sometimes.
Yeah, and you just want to redirect it to we want to win here. And if you push too hard, it's not going to be a win, or there's going to be a failure point, or something's not going to work, right? So let's just keep recalibrating towards a win.
Okay, that's a wrap. Craig, thanks again for joining. This was a great conversation. I look forward to having more in the future.
Good deal. Thanks for having me and looking forward to it also.
I'll see ya.
Yep, see ya.
I had a CFO who was like, listen, unless the house is burning down, I don't, or how do you put it? If I need a request, don't prioritize it. Bullshit.
Right.
We know better, right?
Yep.
Will you shut the fuck up? And I'll beep that out, Craig. Yeah.
All good. All good.
Yeah. I like, there's a project that, in the grand scheme of things, might not be on the list, but you've picked up that this is a pretty passionate thing, and they really want that. We're
Yep.
noted.
Right on.
All right. Today on the CIO Lifeline, we're going to talk. See, my eyes glance, so let me.